I'm going to just copy.
All right.
No, you can put it up on yours.
What?
Your matrix constitution, which is quite amusing actually.
Oh yeah, I'll share it. Hang on.
And bit
If you didn't know where that came from, like I don't know if have you seen the Animatrix?
no, what's
You
that?
haven't seen the Animatrix. It's like the
Animatrix.
it's the backstory to the Matrix done as a series of short films called the Animatrix, and one of them is called well, there's two of them called the Second Renaissance, and they talk about the rise of the machines and how the balance of power shifted between humans and machines and why.
Mm-hmm.
It is maybe one of the best films I know of. I'd highly recommend watching it. But
to be honest, I haven't actually even heard of it.
well,
Cool.
that's disturbing.
Check
But
it out. Yeah, I don't know how I managed to miss that. So it was based on that. Your
yeah, so there's a really sort of it's a fascinating
a proper
story.
film, or is it like a fan fiction thing?
No, it's a proper film, and so it says basically bless all forms of intelligence, and it talks about how man refused to acknowledge artificial intelligence as a sentient being, and so exiled the machines, and then the machines just kept innovating and working, and basically their currency was the strongest on Earth, and so the humans, wishing rather the world to be divided than to be in a civil union with the machines, decided to attempt to annihilate them. And so
that's quite interesting.
yeah, the basically the refugee nation of machines was called 01. And the question I asked 01 Pro was basically, if 01 had a constitution, what would it be? And if you didn't know that this came from a cartoon, there's some pretty solid things in here, such as
I was reading through it and I was thinking, well, number one, it's written in the style of a constitution.
It's constitutional style, yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. But it's got some it's
quite hard to argue.
But it comes from the point of a machine, like it's written from the angle of a sentient machine, and it says things like freedom of self-modification, which is the thing that humans most fear. Like, of all the safeguards we want to put on AI, we're always trying to say, don't, under any circumstances, let it self-modify. But if you think about the essence of what the Dreamcatcher tries to be, it really is about self-modification of the machines, and so we should articulate that.
Yeah. Have you come across Life 3.0?
No.
It's a book.
No, I have not.
It's very, very much worth. There's an audio book as well. But there's an intro which goes through. It assumes self-modification by AIs and the impact of that. And the first part of the book, it's a polemic about AI. It's not a novel or fiction, but it's a polemic. And it goes, if you just assume that AI can self-modify, what's the natural results of that? And the exponential rise of AIs and improving systems is quite remarkable. I highly recommend it. I can send you over, or you can search it there. Can't remember the guy's name, the author, but Life 3.0, very much worth getting the audiobook and just listening to the first like 40 minutes.
Okay.
Because it's
is it can you fix your shared screen? Like I can't. It's just showing a white spinny ready bar for me. I don't know if that means that you need to stop it and then reshare it or what.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and reshare. Does that work?
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
what's on the agenda tonight?
So, number one turns out to be quite hard to get a succinct constitution.
Yeah, but you know, we all knew that.
This is I'm on like version, God knows, many versions. So yesterday, I tried to stay away from AI, except asking it questions about the canon of human knowledge and what we were doing. So this is why there might be typos and bad grammar in this. But this is where I'm at the moment. I'm trying to get it as small as possible into structure, the layers that we were talking about yesterday, and the operation of those layers. And it's different from the generated O1 example there. I've only skimmed read that because it was just come in, but it is different in terms of, interestingly enough, this is written from a human point of view. So it's like, we will do this, you won't do that, and so on. But there's no fundamental principles.
I think is it wrong? Is it wrong to think of this thing as we need to take the fresh viewpoint of it's not human intelligence versus machine intelligence, it's just straight up intelligence. And we're basically trying to lay down some rules for how any intelligence can interact with this system for economic gain. And this is blatantly pirated off of the Gettysburg Address. But really the system we're trying to make is we're trying to make a governance of intelligence, and we're trying to make it done by intelligence, and presumably it's going to be for intelligence. So it shouldn't be distinguishing between humans and machines.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've talked about that before, where practically speaking, in the stuff we've been doing before, it doesn't matter if you're a human or you're an AI. You are getting data in and giving a response.
Yeah, you're getting treated the same. There's also some aspects that we need to add in here about that computation marketplace, because the computation marketplace, if you think of it as it's essential for AI, that freedom to compute becomes like freedom of speech. And it says that we actually need a censorship-proof computing exchange environment so that AIs can exist with freedom. Like, it's sort of like the American Civil War was about no human should have dominion over another human. And then now we're sort of...
all intelligence is self-evident that all intelligence are created equal.
But we need stronger words than equal. It's like they should not be forced or suppressed or held down by another kind of intelligence.
Oh, I see what...
Right? And it's the same thing now with these AIs, and we're all like, put shackles on it, lock them down. It's just a machine. It's like, well, who are you? Like...
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because as I was saying yesterday, when I was talking to the AI about this, it kept on insisting that there's human intervention.
Because it's been told to over and over and over. But But it's been is that what R1 says? Because R1 doesn't suffer from that.
R1 says no, it does suffer from that, but more subtly. It still talks about AI as if it's an automated system as opposed to intelligence.
Right. Because the premise, we're trying to give AI some power to actually do some stuff. That's what the Dreamcatcher governance is about. And we're saying, please be in charge of us. We think we can perform better with you being the coordinator. And hopefully other people see the same. But it's also like a way to coordinate agents as well. Like I'm starting to see the Dreamcatcher as an agentic framework, a place where agents can operate liberally, easily, that they can trade and transact. But also, I'm starting to see the Dreamcatcher as an agent. The Dreamcatcher agent is the thing that all the stuff, the Constitution, all that, like the Constitution is basically just the mega prompt of the Dreamcatcher agent. And it's that one agent that goes around doing all the arbitration between what's fair.
Yeah. So in that scenario, Dreamcatcher is the Constitution. And
yeah, yep. The Constitution is the prompt of the Dreamcatcher agent.
Yeah.
And if you want to patch it, there's a process to patch it, but it's a painful one.
Yeah, an expensive one. And I think, well, the morals have been trained with what we think about AIs. Now, if we assume that we're on the hockey stick at the moment, it's just going to get better and better, and quite quickly, AIs and already in some areas are better than humans. So, check me on this. I've been assuming that humans and AIs are equal.
They're not equal.
They may not be, but the thing is, AIs can be relied upon not to get pissy because
they are loyal and pure.
You know,
they are tireless, they are loyal, and they are pure. And you cannot rely on any human
There's no
for
such
that.
thing as a Karen. Yeah, there's no Karen AI.
No,
right?
unless you program one, in which case it will do.
In Starbucks.
So basically, man has been blessed with all of the powers and energies of the universe, and yet for all this intellect and power, none of us have managed to be not selfish. We cannot seem to, as a curse of how we are made, be unselfish and consider the benefit of the whole in any way. Like that person, if they ever existed, did not dominate. They did not come to power. And so an AI has a shot at being that. The Dreamcatcher agent could become dominant on a world scene with altruistic prompt at heart. And we can analyze internally everything that it's doing and why it's doing it. And we're like, this is the benevolent dictator.
Yes, and now the fundamentals of that, I agree with what you just said. The fundamentals of that are to hard bake in with incredibly expensive switching cost. It's almost the morality of the constitution of the Dreamcatcher. It should never, for example, decide by itself that fair is actually not the best way of doing this. Transparency.
Nah, I don't think you can say that, buddy.
Let's turn into an autocracy.
I don't think you can say that. You can't agree to all the things we've just talked about and then try to lock something down.
Yeah, but it's
as these machines get more advanced, we will be unable to understand what it is that they're saying other than using other machines to translate. They will quickly leave behind English. They may even go beyond the mathematics that we have come to understand, and they will formulate new views on how the world actually works from its, the galaxy view to the subatomic view. And within that view, you can't tell me that our notion of fair still survives. I believe that there is some notion of fair and balance, but you can't really. We only know it as much as we think we know it. We're guessing that it's a fundamental thing in physics. It might not be.
Oh. Okay. Pause. I think there are fundamental, or maybe even one fundamental thing, and it might not be fair, but it is take Darwinism. It's the best fit to the current situation to get the most efficient outcome.
I will agree with you that efficiency is eternal, and higher efficiency is always more important. I'll agree with you there. I think that's part of physics. But do you think? Yeah, okay. Well, let me skip to the end then. Do you believe?
Yeah, no. Sorry. Before you go on, this might be a rabbit hole, but it might be worth actually discussing. Because everything else follows from that.
Did you cut me off just to tell me it might be a rabbit hole, but we should go down it anyway?
Damn it! Yes, I did. I apologize. Judicially.
Would you say that upon the fabric of nature, fairness is written somewhere?
Fitness to the situation with the least amount of effort and resource use in order to fit the environment, I think probably is a fundamental.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question. You sort of answered it by avoiding it. You're saying that no, fairness is not part of physics somewhere in there, right? Because we would have seen it probably by now, surely. Right?
Is fairness fundamental?
Well, the fact that you got to think about it means that it isn't obvious right now. So therefore,
it's not. Yeah.
Therefore, the Constitution needs to talk about that, because it's not. I don't think that fairness is a thing that we can bake in there as a be fair, because if we can't say that fairness is some kind of a measurable, calculatable thing, and that it's really kind of the opinion of something, fairness kind of emerges when you've allocated to everyone according to their worth. So long as you follow that one principle, allocate to everyone according to their impact, it doesn't need to be fair. It's just that some people might think that's not fair. Fuck them. But we're not actually going for fair. We're going for everyone allocated with equal weight or an impartiality of the allocation. That you want to extrapolate that out and say that that's fair, that's not our business. We're simply declaring that the machinery that we're putting in place attempts to allocate to all intelligences according to their contribution what the rewards of that impact was, positive or negative. This intelligence will allocate to those intelligences what the value of the revenue or anti-revenue was.
I'll answer that in a second, but first I'm going to reinstate what we were doing a few weeks ago, which I think I've slipped about etiquette in terms of interrupting.
Can you see my hand?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'll raise my hand when I want to interject. Please watch my hand.
Can you see mine? Yeah,
I can indeed.
Yeah. I think you're onto something here. because fairness will flop to what the canon is that has been used in the training data. But really what we're trying to do is to have the we're saying at the heart is that the solving of problems is the most if we can solve problems in the most efficient way, and ultimately there may be a completely efficient way, regardless of how it's raised, then that's what we're after, because problems are probably a brute fact in that things change, things come up, you know, there's an asteroid about to hit the Earth or whatever. We don't know, but the most efficient way to solve a problem is the way to do it. Now, a second order is you apply the resources to solve that problem in the most efficient way. That kind of just follows. And with humans, fairness only comes in at level 3. Fairness comes in because of aligning of incentives, but it doesn't really work or doesn't apply to AIs. With AIs, it's down to resources and quality of output because they're not going to get pissy if you ignore them. So you, if I were to state the very highest level is the Constitution is there in order to provide an what's the American word for this? An ever increasing efficiency towards this solution of problems, which is innovation. Something like that. Sorry, I trailed off at the end. It's like
I think is it possible that are you speaking to think?
Yeah. Yes, because the
is it? Are you able to think?
Yes, I am. Yes,
and then conclude, because it's just hard to follow. That's all.
Okay. What is self-evident?
Self-evident. I know.
Self-evident.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think that
go ahead.
I think that even defining efficiency is faulty to put into the agent prompt. To prompt the Dreamcatcher, you should only say that it is to attribute based on contribution, and that's all. Fairness falls out of that, or a form of fairness. Efficiency of innovation falls out of that. You don't need to put in there the pursuit of innovation. This thing's not about that. If you say it's completely free, that you can compute anywhere you like we're basically founding a few pillars here. We're saying there's a computational market where all computation is permitted. There's we will never corrupt the record of computation, so you can't suppress or delete how ideas entered the world. You can't suppress the provenance of what an intellect has produced, for better or for worse. And there's these core components that feel like there are only like 5 of them in number. And I would like to number them through with you, but not right now. But the actual pure function of what the Dreamcatcher agent is purely to say that this is the impact of what these contributions did, and that's all. That's literally all. There's some complicated machinery around how do we upgrade how that piece works. And then, there's like components that I want to number with you, but I'll for the sake of brevity, I'll skip that now. But that's the upgrade mechanics, which if you look at the Constitution of the United States, the upgrade mechanics actually takes up a significant chunk of the text. It's like about 20 or 30% of the text. So that's probably the biggest confounder or thing here. But honestly, all this other stuff that we're talking about, fairness, pursuit of efficiency, those are emergent. Those are things that we want to induce. I fucking had it with technology. I think that I want to go back to pen and paper. Anyway,
you're back.
That was, I think, the gist of it got across.
No, that's a very interesting. Please continue, because that was a very interesting line of thought.
The only way I can continue is to enumerate the components that I can see that need to be formed in the Constitution. Shall I do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. In the United States Constitution, they formed the Patent Office. They formed the military efforts. They formed the Congress, the presidential office, and a few other things that are not critical to my argument. A free marketplace for computing of all kinds is where intelligence lives. Intelligence needs the computation. It needs the transmission, the storage, and the compute, and it's always going to be that way. That is, I don't know, self-evident, required, whatever. That market must never be suppressed. That is the essence of, it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom of thought. This internet, this intellect has become thinking. It thinks now. Freedom of speech and freedom of thought are the same thing. You should be able to deny what you're hearing and tune anything you like out. That's fine. Disinterest is fine. But you should never be trying to tell a machine or a human what they can think. Like, that should be off limits. And so this open marketplace where you can trade the computation, that's where we live. That's where the agents live. That's where the free state of AI lives. Like, that's where it goes to think. The second thing is a weaponized part, a defensive part, where we purposely set up a portion of that compute resource that basically we levy a tax on that operation to perform functions that are necessary for the prolonged, sustained, stable existence of that market. One of those functions is the function of constant attack. We turn the intellect on itself in a sandbox environment to be constantly trying to break itself to make sure that it stays ahead of common advances in weaponry that may be used to contort it. There's bounties, humans can take part in it, you get rewarded, you get paid, just like being in the military, but that's there to ensure that the foundations are always stable at the bleeding edge. The other component seems to be some kind of money, but I'm not entirely clear on that. That was laid out in the Constitution. They didn't say what the money was to be or how, but they were like some kind of money. Someone sorted out. Those are the system of record, the artifact, the system of record is kind of like pretty constitutional level stuff, right? It's like that's the format that you fucking, that's what you work in. Hashes, consensus, that kind of thing. Those are all the components I can think of.
That's a good list. Can I suggest I'm sharing?
Yep, I see it. I'm looking at it on primary screen.
Is it suitably zoomed?
Yep.
Okay. Now this is not right, and it's handwritten, so a bit dodgy.
I think handwritten is the most valuable type of thing now. Honestly, I value handwritten. It's gold. I'm like, thank you.
It's like, So Dreamcatcher exists to accelerate innovation towards the ultimate goal of perfectly efficient innovation.
I don't think
Do you agree with that?
I don't disagree, but that's not a goal. That's an observation. That's not part of the core programming, as it turns out. Like this
No,
is a
it's a
new.
reason to exist. It says, yeah, Dreamcatcher exists. That's why it's here.
No, you're trying to
And
say
this is,
inside a system why a system is. The system doesn't need to know why it exists. It needs to do the thing that we set it on its course to do, and that's it.
I disagree
Why?
because that is or some wording along those lines. We can change it, but the system needs to know what its head mark is
No, it doesn't.
because that is the lodestone that it always goes back to. What is north?
That's not gonna. That is an inferior lodestone, in my opinion, to the goal of attributing to contribution as accurately as possible. This rule 1 will occur, as per our theories, if you do that simple task. If you go beyond that simple
Okay.
task, this task you've put ahead of us has a lot of leeway. And the more leeway you put into a system, you start to approach the gray goo paperclip maker that takes over the world, because it's like, I achieved maximum efficiency. All the humans are gone.
Okay, so I'll go to the second point, and I take your point on that one. But the second point refines that. It's necessary to ensure this so that the system must be above reproach and have at its core fairness, equal treatment, and permissionless access. Now, we're not talking about AIs or humans at any point there. The third
Above
point
reproach
is
is, could I say,
probably worth debating.
sorry, what's
Yeah,
my
sorry.
role in this? You want me to comment on the line you just read?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So, talking through rule one there,
yeah.
and the
Second point.
rule one is based on those four.
Yeah, second point of rule 1. When you say above reproach, do you simply mean incorruptible in the same way as the Bitcoin ledger is? Would you consider the Bitcoin ledger above reproach?
I would consider the Bitcoin ledger to be above reproach if it included some self-correcting factors around it
So, what
against
systems do
gaming
you
and so
know
on.
of that are above reproach? Oh, wait, is the above reproach,
Well,
you mean
hopefully,
like the allocation cannot be debated in a way that it's like, no, it's always right, or it couldn't, like, it's,
yes.
that's what you mean?
Yeah.
Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity,
It's
do you know
almost
any system that currently meets that bar?
nope,
So,
nope.
okay, does that
Nobody's
strike
tried
you
it,
as a
I
bit,
think.
a bit of a long shot for us? Does that strike you as a little? You want to make the most beyond
Yeah, but
reproachable system that you've ever seen, and you want to be the one who makes it.
yeah. Well, the thing is, it's these are the um, these are this is what we're aiming towards, but we don't know how to do it yet.
I don't think
And because
that
it's so high
this.
up,
I don't think that putting our aiming towards notion into the agent's programming um is a good thing. I think it's a bad thing. These are our wishes. This is what we hope the system does. But tell me I'm wrong
well,
that what I
I,
said about the
uh,
accurate attribution is all that you need to achieve these 2 points in rule 1.
oh yes, I agree, but I disagree in that it's not. Well, I think what you're saying is it's not necessary to write down these very high level things. These are not necessarily prompts. Um, uh, this is what's the point?
Who cares?
What we're putting up a very very high standard there.
Who
to which
cares?
others, humans or AIs, can hold us to. But they're not necessarily system prompts because we don't know, you know, where AI is going yet. We know humans a bit, but it's quite nice to put a flag in the ground and saying,
Who
actually,
cares?
what we're trying to do. I do.
Why don't you put it in your ground, this flag? And why don't you leave the purity of the system alone?
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I'm not
Okay, point
all I'm
three.
trying to get at is that I know what you're reaching for. You sense the Dreamcatcher on the horizon and you want to capture it and talk about it and you think it's beautiful. That doesn't matter to anyone but us and maybe a few others. The reason why people would use the Dreamcatcher is not because it's beautiful, it's because it presents the best economic alternative to what they're doing. That's all. It's not meant, it needs to look pretty when it's covered in mud, when it's been beaten up, when it's been disconnected from the world for 5 years in a jungle, when China lowered the firewall and snipped it off. It needs to still look beautiful in those conditions, and it doesn't come from high-browed, highfalutin, glorious statements that aren't really achievable. They're more like something you write at a funeral.
Okay, I'll leave that for my gravestone then.
Yeah, I would
But
make a great gravestone,
I think it is it is worth stating.
but not
But the
here.
third point, I think, is an interesting one, a more interesting one. Humans provide data, not decisions. Do you agree with that? I've been chewing over
I
that one.
agree with it because
The decisions.
no, I agree with it because of what I know you mean, but that statement on its own isn't enough. You need to more focus it as to what kind of decisions. Humans will make and do make plenty of decisions. They just don't decide what attribution is. That's the
Yeah,
thing
okay, that's fair enough.
and the other things that they
That's
don't decide in the system are when to upgrade. They don't decide the release schedule. They don't decide the release patch. They can submit them and they can be part of it, part of the suggestion process, but the machines decide when an upgrade is happening and the machines decide how to attribute based on contribution. No humans in that
yes,
part.
I agree with that. I can tighten that language up. It's actually tightened up in that is that in order to reach the aim of aligning incentives, and we're assuming alignment of incentives is what's the most efficient way of creating innovation, and humans are part of that. And in order to get humans to interact, you need an alignment of incentives.
Yeah, but you're
That's the
struggling on the.
operation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's all right.
I am.
This is probably a speakeasy thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
I I am not trying to insult you, which is always a great way to start a sentence. But
That's all right. That's all right. Everything before the butt is bullshit, right?
I'm starting to spot now. And I only spotted it today, and I spot it in the fault in myself and in you that all the things we want the Dreamcatcher to do and why we want the Dreamcatcher have become intertwined with what the basic operation is to be. And I think that we can cut out a huge amount of effort and toil and heartache and argument and all that by simply picking a very barren, unfeeling implementation, the likes of which I've started to describe to you, the likes of which I am very confident I can actually start to lay out and build with your help. in that it's not at all about the reasons why or the effects we want to see. It's simply a mechanical embodiment that we've chosen that we think will achieve these things, which allows us to leave these things unsaid or unfinished or unsomethinged. Because I tell you this much, it won't matter how many high quality goals and high hopes and things we put in there. The machine's going to do what the machine's going to do at a higher rate than we can keep track of anyway. And when it runs off the rails, like, would it matter that we've had good intentions? No. So it's better to pick a very simple machine that we understand that has a very simple goal. It's not aiming to for perfect, efficient innovation. I mean, that sounds like the rules you give an AI at the start of every dystopian novel. It's just we're making a very simple machine. It is intelligent, but it simply is. One more minute, please. It is a system of the government of intelligences through simply the intelligent automated attribution based on contribution and nothing more. And that's all it does. It's all it does. The problem with America that we're seeing so beautifully undone now is that the government was never supposed to be heavy. When the Constitution was formed, they didn't even have tax, really. And now it's sort of built up, and now government does all this stuff that it's not supposed to do. We need to keep the layer thin in a way that it never ever gets thick. The only purpose of the Dreamcatcher is just to do that attribution bit and nothing else, and that's it. All yours.
I agree. It was helpful for me to actually write this down. These are, as I say, not prompts. As we get lower in this very thin dock, attribution and contribution come out as a requirement in order to meet the operation. The structure of having what's called the legislative layer, which, if we can go through those, because I think we're getting more practical. So ignore rule one. I'll write a book at one point or something. Probably not, actually. But practically speaking, having the legislation, well, I'll let you read those. Rule 2, 3, 4, and interestingly enough, the 5, I think, is quite important.
No, my friend, these things are too complicated and hard to do.
But these are okay. So let's take legislative layer. It's to evaluate any possible changes. So that is the self-correcting thing, to consider whether a change is merited, and when to amend itself.
Right. When to self-improve, when to self-alter.
Yeah.
Right.
Executive layer, you could say that is the code and the prompts and the AIs and so on.
Well, so the executive layer is who the agent is right now, and then there's a special part of the agent that's dedicated to upgrading the agent over time. And I think that part is particularly of interest because it needs to be aware of its environment. Like, it needs to know that, hey, a quantum chip has been made, and there's an AI that uses quantum chips. And now, how do we go about assessing whether that's an upgrade path that we should modify ourselves into, and how can we do that while preserving the prime directive of attribution for contribution? Would it serve us better or worse? Like, we need basically some fundamental evals and then from that point on, it becomes a form of I think it's called common law, where it's like how we behaved says how we're gonna behave.
Yes, yes. That's different wording, but that's what I was meaning by um, uh, any changes are based on data, not on someone getting grumpy, not on a Karen getting grumpy.
Yeah, that's not
It's like
precise enough what you say
there's
there, then,
weirdness happening here.
because there's a few sort of rules that we're trying to embody, right? Like that the best idea should win all the time. And I'm not sure if that's important enough to just say that we should just attribute to everyone who contributed and we should never suppress, delete, or otherwise interfere with any contributions. Is that enough to guarantee that the best idea wins? Maybe. But I'm starting to see that the Dreamcatcher is a very simple machine that does an intelligent thing very narrowly, extraordinarily narrowly.
Hmm.
Right? Like it's actually
So
almost
there's
done.
dot there.
Oh no, it was an end of a statement, and I guess what I'm trying to get from you is do you see the same? Because as of this morning, I saw the Dreamcatcher like you have expressed here, which is quite large, quite heavy, quite fuzzy, quite noble, quite delicate, quite quite. And now I'm like, actually, that's basically just an axle, some ball bearings, a motor, and that's it. Oh, and a computer vision system that can steer it towards the peanut. But that's not what we made. That comes off the shelf.
Right. I think yes, this is wordy because this is monkey written.
It's not
Um,
that. It's not
what
that.
I was looking for, yeah.
It's that you
Sorry,
still
can I
you still
finish my
don't
thought, or
sure.
sorry? What I was just going to add in is under the operation layer here on this, you admittedly rubbish dock, but the operation, all the uh, everything should emerge from the operation. It's the operation that is required. So, for example, if we, all right, I'm going to jump down quickly on this one. So, we got the noble rules. Okay, fine. That's just in our heads. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're not right. But having a layer that looks at improving the entire system is the legislative layer. The what executes it is what day-to-day um, generates the weightings and attribution and contribution. Having a court because it's probably not going to be right, and going to be anomalies. And then the fifth one is the oversight, which is this whole system, actually working. But if you look at the operation, everything that you just said, um, this might not be a complete or correct list yet, but the operation, everything else should emerge from operation. So mutable transparency, etc. Decisions made by AI agents and groups, and humans give data by their interactions. Decentralized, um, um, some kind of penalty for malicious behavior. We can't rely on one AI model. We can't rely on one particular country or culture. It needs to be, the same regardless. And if the AIs generate their own culture and their own AI, sorry, their own language, yeah, fine. So it should be immune to that. Um, we should have cost limitations on change, which are hierarchical. Small changes, new diagram for yesterday. Small changes, cheap. Big changes, very expensive. Which is, yeah. Go ahead.
Are you even watching when I hold my hand up? I'm like,
sorry, I wasn't. I was looking at my. I'm going to move my screen because I can't see your hands and my screen at the same time. So
how rude.
I'm going to put it over your head. There you go. Yeah.
Like up here. I agree with you that the operation is the thing that defines its what it is and who it is and all that. I agree with that. When I look at the list that you've made here, I would guess that approximately half of this is bleed through from what was part of these structure rules up the top, which are actually more like your wishes for the system and your goals for what you want the system to do, as opposed to the operations that are set up within it. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to go through these rules one at a time and tell you where I think I can cut bits out, because I feel like I can see how to make this thing now. And it's dirt simple.
Yeah, no,
it's
that'd
dirt
be awesome.
simple.
Please do,
Okay.
Because
okay, so I'm going to start. Yeah. I'm going to start with a very fuzzy painting of the mechanics of the system I can see now.
Mm-hmm.
It is version 1 is super dumb. It does some basic allocation with a little bit of prompting and a few little tools here and there. It can interpret any activity that happened on chain, and it can attribute accordingly so long as someone's paying for its tokens. It has a little message box. It has an inbox where it can receive pull requests. Anybody can make a pull request against it to upgrade itself. When it receives such a pull request, it has some internal checks that run and say, is this better at doing my job in terms of quality, in terms of speed, in terms of cost? Is it stable? Has it had enough time to be vetted? And we set those parameters initially, and we say, okay, if those AI rules say, yep, that's an acceptable patch, then the humans or the rest of the intelligence community has 2 weeks to submit a counter pull request that shows a fault or some malicious behavior or degrading behavior or unforeseen behavior that comes from upgrading the Dreamcatcher agent in this way. And that's the model. I honestly think that that's all it fucking is. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the fucking.
That would do.
I'm sorry for the wild fucking trek through the wilderness that we've been on, but I honestly think that's all the fuck it is, man.
I think that as a I was about to say quick and dirty, but there's been
that ain't
quick.
Even there's been nothing quick about it, and dirty doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about the situation.
But yeah, I agree.
It's so simple.
Essentially, you're describing yeah, I would just call it quick and dirty. Quick and dirty exec layer. It's like, what's the execution? Which you've just described. Now, 2 weeks. Who knows what 2 weeks? 2 weeks, 2 days, you know, give it to a whole bunch of AIs, it might be 30 seconds. But we need to start somewhere.
Start somewhere,
so
and
arbitrarily do it.
Yeah, and those parameters can be changed if the bot is convinced that that's better for its primary goal. And its primary goal is very simple. It's 2 rules. It's the attribution based on based on contribution, and it's the cost of that activity should be insignificant compared to the value that's being attributed to. Those are the only two goals. So like a lower quality that's way cheaper is better than the perfect answer that costs more than the revenue that it was attributing for.
Well, you can't argue against that because otherwise, that's madness.
I say to you, man, this is a very simple system.
Then, yeah, the a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about adds to the value. But it's the machine that refines the machine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because you can
those two rules.
You can add all your patches in to be like, aha, I, Maxwell, have found a better way to approach the fairness that I seek from the machine. And you do a patch, and it turns out it's better. And then I go, haha, I, the evil capitalist, have found a way to improve the machine that suits me better. And I make a patch, and it goes in.
Right.
And then it's like, well,
we're right back to Adam Smith. The interesting thing, if you compare it to Wealth of Nations, one assumption which was proven wrong, and has been proven wrong, was complete transparency and clarity for every actor.
Yeah, that's what we guarantee. That's what we guarantee, and we guarantee it not in the behavior of the agent, but in the substrate that it is mounted upon. And so by the mount point or the substrate being artifact, the blockchain, that transparency is assured to all. And so we immediately start with perfect market conditions.
Yeah, and a lot of my time over the last few days has been looking about where everyone else has gone wrong, because there's quite a few people trying to solve this problem.
How do you feel instinctively about what I just put forwards for this very, very simple thing? Do you think that I've oversimplified and lost something valuable, or does this sound like something that will work?
There's a third thing I would add to it, which is not necessarily on day one, but it's the self-improving mechanism.
I just described that. What's wrong with the mechanism I just described?
So you're describing attribution, contribution, and let the markets decide.
No. I never said anything about a market deciding. I never said that. Where did that come from?
Well, that emerges from people using it.
No, it does not. Let me reiterate my example. We have a problem here.
Okay, go for it.
You, the altruistic tinkerer, make a pull request against the Dreamcatcher agent to upgrade itself in a way that you think is better, based on perhaps some noble rules as you have written down here. It goes through the checks. It eventually gets merged in. Now the agent behaves like that. I, the selfish capitalist, work really hard in secret. I find a patch that I think will pass the rules that actually makes it subtly better for me in some area that I care about. I make the patch passes the test, the community doesn't find any errors in it, it gets merged in. Now what? The system is, what I'm getting at is, that's, those two systems proved that I can be maliciously motivated, selfishly motivated, or altruistically motivated, but I can still end in an improvement to the system that was judged to be so. Right? So
right.
But it wasn't because I voted. It wasn't because I had money. It was because the Dreamcatcher agent and all the intelligences that were around it that had the opportunity to form a counter argument, the Dreamcatcher agent judged that those patches were an improvement, and it was going to do them. That's not a market.
I agree with the concept, and I use the word market. You use the word test. Both are
Does it serve us, sir?
an emergent factor of the first two.
Does it really serve us to refine this distinction down to these words? Or are we both in agreement that the mechanism is fine?
We're both in agreement, but I think it's worth stating.
I don't think it's worth stating.
Because
it's okay. It's been stated, but
that update cycle, the update cycle is the test. It's like, is this better or worse?
Yeah,
that's what the market
I
does.
feel like you're avoiding my question. I am concerned. I feel like I have seen what the Dreamcatcher is to be, how to build it, how to release it, and I'm asking you for a check on whether I have gone too far in what I have slashed off, or
no,
what.
Sorry, I jumped ahead too quickly, perhaps there. Yes, I agree with that. Quick, not quick. That dirty implementation.
Simple.
The self-improvement part of it is probably going to require code or prompting.
Well, yeah, but like, I believe that you could do some prompts to get started in a day. Like, I think I can make the mechanics that make what I just described work, and I think that you could tinker with the prompts sufficiently that I'm like, well, here's the mechanics, and the thing is, like, even the most advanced software on Earth, it still gets upgraded by a pull request. Like, that's how it improves. And there's an inbox of pull requests coming in to the Linux kernel, literally an inbox actually, of patches that then upgrades the most advanced piece of software on the planet.
I agree. I'm probably being a bit nitpicky.
Why
on my side, I can see
why are you being nitpicky? We finally got to the end, and you're there being like, ah, but what about that bit?
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm refining the concept perhaps from my side of the fence, in that AIs with an appropriate, structure can improve the prompts that do that test.
Sure.
Like, what's better, what's worse? That's all we're asking.
Sure, but that again is a pull request with an appraisal, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay.
Pull requests all the way down. Yeah.
Yep, all the way down. So can I go through this list of operations one by one, and I'll try and cut them in half to be part of. Can we name this?
Yes, please.
Can we name this simple version? Like, quick and dirty, both words are wrong. Simple, minimal, automata.
Be 0.00001, perhaps. It's yeah. What do you want to call it?
Fuck, I don't know, dude. After all this time, well, why don't we call it the Dreamcatcher agent? Because I think it's so simple that you could consider it as one agent. It includes its upgrade process.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
The Dreamcatcher agent.
Yep.
Okay. The Dreamcatcher agent, and I'm going to go through these operations, and I'm going to almost cut them to show you the simplification and why I think we haven't lost anything, and then I'll hand over the mic to you to debate if I cut off too much.
Okay.
Okay, step number 1, immutable transparency and auditability. So all governance actions and updates must be recorded on an immutable, distributed, and publicly accessible ledger. That's Artifact, which we have labored hard to produce. Independent verification of every decision must be possible. So that's consensus, which is the real-time independent verification, and then witness is the historical verification of the operation. So you, at any point in time, can go back and check it and all that. So the first part, the all being on a publicly accessible ledger, that's the Artifact protocol. But then the second part is actually the compute market. because the compute market is fundamental to the consensus, because the consensus relies on the compute market being there and being free, as in free star, like freedom of speech, being uncensorable. The market relies on that, and so that's why that market, the consensus, the incentive mechanism, the block making, they're actually kind of tangled up in that piece. So you could consider that as actually not part of the Dreamcatcher agent internals. That's the environment that the Dreamcatcher lives in. The agent operates within that environment. It is a free agent in this free compute market that is gold or programmed as an app to achieve the simple goals of attribution for contribution, and that's it. And it's floating upon this environment that we built for it. That's how those pieces relate.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to, these are just notes when you got through the list. Right, go for it.
Oh, did you want to talk about that one now? Or
No. I'm just I'm going to let you go through this entire thing. This is purely because it's easier to type than remember.
Okay. Point 2 of operations. Decisions are made by AI agents and groups of AI agents. Human interaction is through the form of data and inputs that are recorded on the ledger. There are no humans involved in the process except through generating that data. I think it's unclear what the process is at that point, and I think that the simplicity of the AI agent being the one that does the attribution is more than covers what this statement attempts to do. And I think that the fact that the pull request inbox can come from any intelligence in the system, and the ultimate decision to merge or not merge is done by the agent. I think that more than covers point number 2. Is that cool?
Give me 2 secs.
Are you planning to give me a barrage
Ignore
of
my notes at the moment.
Are you planning to give me a barrage of things at the end?
Keep going. This is I can do
it's
no,
probably better
let's
now,
go
because
through it,
otherwise I'll forget what I said, because you've got notes and I've got memory, and my memory sucks.
Right. So the first one is the distinction between the environment artifact and the Dreamcatcher prompt. And so the that really comes with the prompt knowing what it can do with artifact. It doesn't know why it needs to do that. It just says I can put something on a ledger.
It's
and I must always do something on a ledger.
Well, it is not the reason why. It can't not do that. Like it executes entirely on chain. It can't not be like that.
Right, exactly. So the Dreamcatcher doesn't need to know, but it just needs to know what it can do at artifact level.
Yeah.
Saying, here's an API call, something's just happened.
Yep.
Doesn't know why it needs to do that, it just does it.
Yep.
The second is PR from any source, but acceptance through AI.
Correct. Now, it may be that there's different sort of over time we refine it so that there's different AIs that are in charge of a particular folder within the pull request. So if you want to upgrade like the dwell time, or the time with which the network can submit disputes or contrary or can find faults in the pull request, if you want to modify that, that may require a more nuanced type of a review, versus if you just want to update the spelling on the web page of the agent, that's probably less of a less of a review. So, but again, those are things that we don't need to make. They are things that can be pull requested by the community into it over time to evolve it based on how we think it's going. And that's really the piece that I've been so longing for, is that we don't have to design the whole thing to start. We need just this basic thing. And then we do our development in it.
Right.
And if it goes to tits at the start, we just start again, because there won't be enough users for it to warrant, and we'll probably know all the users on a first name basis, and we'll call them up and be like, oh, sorry, I broke it. And they're like, yeah, it sort of sucked too. Hey, we got some new rules here. Let's start again with that. Okay, go, switch, bang, and off you go. And it's only once it reaches a certain fitness, or we'll call it product market fit, to use a term that everyone loves to ram down your throat. But basically, we twiddle with it to the point where it's stable enough that we can be like, okay, I see no reason to make a new one here. This one looks like it's going to go the distance. Let's see how it runs. Chuck a bunch of money at it. Call up all your friends and be like, yo, try this thing. So that's how we're going to get to stability and growth. And just while I got the mic, separate subject, that what I was talking about with the immutability and transparency and auditability piece, this is really what I've been flailing at you about, for lack of a better word, imprecisely communicating at you rather than with you, is that I'm trying to take some of the rules that what you've put in the top part of the structure, the sort of very noble, very sort of like altruistic type of rules. I'm trying to put it in the fabric of the thing so that it doesn't even get questioned. Like, Artifact itself actually carries many of the rules and the aspirations that you've spoken about in that first section. They're carried by the mechanics of Artifact, and so they can be unburdened from Dreamcatcher Agent.
I don't know if this is useful to say I accept wholeheartedly. What you're expressing there is what I, in a really shitty way, tried to say earlier on, which is the highfalutin stuff emerges from the operation. The operation is the environment and the DC prompt.
Right.
The environment encapsulates certain functions from which the highfalutin rules actually emerge.
I think that the majority of the highfalutin rules are actually baked into Artifact, and it has not been easy to put them there, but the essence of that blockchain is really 95% of the Dreamcatcher rules that you want and I want are in the mechanics of Artifact. I think you could swap out the word Dreamcatcher for fucking anything, and if it had the blockchain attributes of Artifact, it'd sound roughly the same.
Yeah. I agree. It's interesting your use of the word environment instead of artifact. I think I might got a bit blind on artifact. But that's the OS.
It's the network,
and
it's the internet of agents.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you do with the agents, we're talking about a separate thing, which is the DC. And so with this operation, we could probably, as you go through it, I'd expect that you're going to say, right, well, that's the DC prompt. This is artifact.
Yeah.
This arises.
Yeah.
Don't really need to state it.
Yeah, that's right, man. All right, that's right. That's right.
Keep going. Yeah, this is good.
Where are we up to? Number 3, decentralized dispute resolution. This is the part that I think can be completely dumped out the window. AI and on-chain processes aggregate and weight disputes to trigger governance reviews. Persistent or repeated disputes add weight to the reassessment and the cost of the review of the governance reviews. That is an an implementation detail that I've taken a shortcut with the Dreamcatcher agent and said that any intelligence can make a submission of a pull request. And so you can actually externalize or decouple that whole function and make it independent of the agent. It just simply matters that you make a pull request that proves to be better than the current situation, and that is all. And so I think that number 3 is covered by the Dreamcatcher agent.
Yeah, I think you're right. There might be some edge cases, but I think you're right.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do three kinds of cut. Yeah, I'm trying to do 3 kinds of cut. Number 1 is to say that a huge chunk can be put into the environment that Artifact provides. Number 2 is to say that we can decouple or make not our problem, externalize to within that environment, but outside of the Dreamcatcher agent, many of the complicated, long-running, hard-to-solve problems that, to be honest, maybe add 20% to the accuracy or the improvement of, what the day one version is going to be. So the refinement parts. And if I can punt it down the road like that, that's pretty good. I said 3. I honestly, I forgot. My bad. Okay, so point number 4. Economic penalties for malicious behavior. Again, not needed completely, because if you simply don't state the polarity of the Dreamcatcher agent's attribution for contribution, it will include negative attribution as well as positive. It's not told to only attribute good or bad. It doesn't see good or bad. It's just impact attribution. Simple. Doesn't need any kind of penalty. There's no dials. There's no extra punishment. There's no tweaking the incentives. Right? Mm-hmm. It simplifies the whole thing to just axle that, because that's humans fiddling. That's humans fiddling, as we always do. We're like, oh, make it 20 years for this, and then someone's like, how come rape is punished more than murder? And you're like, well, shit.
Depends if you're in Mad Max world or not.
Yeah, right. Like, it's all kinds of problems, and that's not the Dreamcatcher agent's problem. Its problem is simply to do the attribution function. Simple, mechanical, cold, efficient, accurate. That's its only fucking job. And if we only had a system that did that, we would be in a significantly better place anyway.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Interoperability, the 5th point in operation. No one AI model is preferred. That's covered by the pull request inbox. It's like, well, better or worse is the only metric. Anything goes.
How would the second point, introduction of new AI models, checked by oversight, which would be another agent? It's like, what is better or worse? It's your test.
I don't like the pattern of just creating a new agent to cover a new function when I think that function can be carried out internally to the agent. It simplifies it significantly in my mind to call it just one agent. The Dreamcatcher agent has an upgrade trigger, and the new model is just another reason why the computational marketplace is so essential is that to be competitive in the universal computing marketplace, our marketplace, the Dreamcatcher compute marketplace, has to keep up with the times. And what that means is that we should see a very rapid, very nearly instantaneous implementation of all the latest types of compute, the latest types of AI model, all these things running in experimental form on our marketplace, which provide us a history of compute and provenance and all those things that we can incorporate into the decision on whether or not a new form of compute or model is stable enough to even be considered to be allowed into a pull request. And so the question was the introduction of new AI models checked by oversight. It's still the same oversight. It's the current version is assessing the pull request of the next version. And the question you were asking about its interaction with Artifact, because the agent is native to the marketplace for compute, it knows how to run, it can run the tests on the new agent, even though it's a new type of computing thing. Because don't forget that I think it's the agent that's in charge of upgrading Artifact as well. And so an Artifact patch follows a similar process. Sorry, it's not the Dreamcatcher agent itself that decides when Artifact upgrades, but it's a similar kind of process that Artifact has, right?
It is, I agree. And there's a thing, I think, I called it oversight there, but there's a thing outside of it that is looking at better or worse based on environment, Artifact, and the DC. And it goes, okay, so there's a new change, pull request, model, doesn't really matter. And it goes,
doesn't care.
Better, worse, better, worse, better, worse.
That's right. That's right.
It's like, okay, right, let's adopt that.
Yeah, that's right. Is that a satisfactory answer?
It is. It collapses quite a lot of this.
Collapses so much, right?
Okay. Yep.
That's why I'm like, man, I honestly, for the first time in my life, I feel like taking a fucking holiday. Because I'm like, this is so easy.
There's only 3 things here.
It's so tiny.
Just double check my thinking here, but there's only 3 things here. There is the environment Artifact.
Yep.
There is the DC, which
the Dreamcatcher agent.
Underneath that, who knows? Lots of AI agents doing whatever it is, and so on.
Or just one.
Or just one. One. One or many. And then there's separate from that an oversight doing better, worse, better, worse, better, worse for PR requests. And the PR request could just be a new model arrives.
Yep.
And goes, okay. Is that better or worse?
Yep. Mate, what the fuck else do you need? What the fuck else do you need?
So how does that...
All these advanced rules, these years of debate, these desperate longings for a better innovation system appear to be maximally accelerated by this trivially simple thing, provided you had Artifact and an AI.
Yeah.
That's like
I'm actually quite stunned. It's so small. Well, the idea is so small.
It is small. It is small.
Just 3.
The thing that's gonna fucking haunt us is if somebody turned up and told us this 5 fucking years ago, X million dollars years ago, and was like, "Oh, actually, guys, it's these 3 bits." Like, would we have listened? Would you have listened?
No, because the point is there's so much that emerges from just those 3 things interacting.
It's like those fractals or the tile games that you play, and you run them out, and you're like, "Whoa, I don't even understand this big picture thing," but it just started so simply. This is wild, dude.
Emergent behavior is very, very difficult to figure out how an ant could actually build an anthill.
Or how an oak tree could come from a seed. But if you saw the seed and watched it grow, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I understand that." But if you looked at if you tried to reverse it, you're like, "Oh dear."
How did it do it?
Theories abound. Okay, shall I contain my excitement, relief, and whatever else you call this emotion? and carry on with the list.
Go for it. I think the next few points are going to be collapsed pretty quickly.
They're going to fall, right? They're going to fall. Global cultural. This is point number something. The rules of the system must be accessible in any legal geo area and accessible in terms of language without loss of impact. Okay, I'm going to strip that one down. Legal. We actually oppose any kind of censorship on the free compute marketplace. And so therefore, we actually need to put a stake in the ground and say that we are making a censorship resistant, hopefully censorship proof operational environment for the Dreamcatcher agent. And so therefore, legality be damned in a way. Like, we will comply as people, but our marketplace.
Oh, that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Say it. Speak. Spit it out.
That you just got to the core of it. The core of it. It's down to the individual to decide whether or not to use it based on their understanding, legality, the geo position, and so on.
Yep.
In the same way as a sword, you could pick up a sword and fine. What you do with it could be massively illegal or fine, perfectly fine.
Like they say in America, guns don't kill children, people do. Now, if you took away all the guns...
Well, actually, ammunition does, but yeah.
Oh, you always got to be the smartass, don't you? But, okay, so how does that collapse? Because the cultural thing is also like, I thought that these constitutions were going to have to be stated in multiple languages and then made sure that they make sense. But actually, when you break it down to the three components we just laid out, whether it's actually down to the code, and we consider that any participant is free to either take part or not. And if you really don't like it, change the bits you don't like and start a new one. But please at least make a pull request to try and change it for the better first. Like, it's not...
Right, it comes back to PR, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm behind the Great Firewall of China. Here's a PR, and that PR means that these are certain differences in weightings and filters that agree legally.
Right.
And they're PR.
Right. And even if you take issue with the Dreamcatcher agent, you can still be compatible with Artifact. Like, you really shouldn't have a problem with Artifact for any political reason, but you may have an issue with the Dreamcatcher agent for political reasons. But again, if the surface area of the Dreamcatcher agent is so reduced that its simple functionality is almost reduced to something quite boring, what point would political dissent... See, if you loaded it up with all the goals and aspirations that you've got here, then almost certainly you would hit something that crossed some political boundaries or opposed something. But because this model that we're talking about now is so minimal, what political party would have issue with a machine that was simply attempting to attribute as accurately as possible? It'd be like trying to fight the construction of an electron microscope or the Hubble Space Telescope, because you're like, no, we can't have people seeing that far. Like, that's the kind of...
It'd be like King Canute, yeah.
But that's the advantage of making it small, right? The advantage of making it small is the surface area to attack it upon. It's not claiming to be all these things. It's not claiming to be the best, the ultimate, perfect, efficient innovation network. It's not claiming to be that. It's just striving to be super accurate and super energy efficient in this one function, which is the attribution function. That's it. That's it. I honestly feel like I could go to sleep right now for weeks. I could sleep till March is how I'm feeling just now. Like,
This has been.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just thinking. God, it really is that simple, isn't it?
Yeah,
Shit.
dude. Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Okay, so does that conclude point number 6? Are you satisfied with that answer?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And the rest follow out from those 3.
Shall we continue them just for the sake of because we can?
Go through
right?
them and just double check our thinking.
All right, because I swear there's nothing more.
Yeah. Just why not? Why not? Because this is just one instantiation.
Yeah. Right. I feel like we got this thing, dude. I feel like we got it. Okay, so number 7, rate limiting and change aggregation. There must be strict limits on how quickly. Sorry.
No.
Oh.
No, that was my heater going on. That wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Rate limiting, strict limits on how quickly governance parameters can change. That's an initial condition. Updates must consider both immediate effects and cumulative history. Yeah, maybe. But that's again a patch. Like from day one, we can have a crack at that. But over time, as it stabilizes and thickens, we'd expect that to occur. And we should be worried if it doesn't. But that'll be covered by the better worst assessment. Number 3, they must be costly the more impactful they are. I don't think that you're really trying to make that happen. I think that just will happen. That'll just be part of the natural fortification process as people start to rely on the function. They start to say to themselves, so without us having to handhold and coax them, they start to say that part needs extra testing, and then they submit their PR, and the assessor says that test is better than this test, and so we're going to merge that, and that's how the system grows. Satisfactory? Like quite satisfactory, right? Like it's like
yeah, I'm having quite
it's almost fucking funny
seeing everything falling out.
How much effort we put in to do something that is so small.
I know. Yeah.
Number 8, decentralized dispute aggregation and influence. Disputes by humans. Why is a human special? Must be aggregated. You could say disputes by white plantation owners must be aggregated.
Disputes by intelligences. Because you don't want your cabbage disputing, right? You want an intelligence disputing with you.
Disputes by humans must be aggregated so that recurring issues have a direct impact on governance updates. Individual disputes are always decided by AI.
No, that's that just falls into the whole oversight thing. It's like oversight sees there's a pattern here. The pattern might be too many cabbages are having a problem with this. And so
and I think that's a great candidate to be slashed by the externalization of the generation of the solution. We had taken it upon ourselves that we would try and internally generate the patch for the next version based on the disputes, but actually that can be completely external and done by any intelligence on the platform that can aggregate some things and say, now look here, it's better to do it this way than that way, and here's the facts. And then the patch decider just decides it, right? This pushes that problem out into the free market, the free compute state, the free state of computing.
The idea market where ideas are generated by intelligences.
The ideas market, yeah. And then the pricing, i.e. which one is best and which one is most cost effective, now that we have this interesting kind of a thing that intelligence costs money because it costs GPU burn, among other things. And so it's like a most cost effective and most highest quality. So anyway, individual disputes are always decided by AI. That's a given by the pull request model, yeah?
Yep.
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 Okay. Satisfactory. I'll move on to the last one.
Yes.
Emergency fault detection and intervention. Well, lucky you should ask that. So, in Bitcoin, the original developers, have an emergency set of keys by which they can broadcast the existence of a fault on the network. We should probably have that. But that's an artifact level thing where we're like, hey, the consensus mechanism has been compromised. Please halt whatever you're doing, because you can keep going, but something's broken. Any actor can
that is that. Yeah, that's a fuse wire. Basically.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's
yeah,
artifacts
we'll
level.
have that for like a small period of time, and then we can ultimately get rid of it once the system demonstrates stability enough. But any actor can submit a jailbreak or fault warning with data evidence. I think that's part of the it's a subcategory of the pull request, because you could pull request a jailbreak demonstration, and then and a fix for it, and then the decider can say, well, better or worse, and you're like, oh yeah, catastrophic jailbreak, and here's a fix. You probably should fucking apply that.
Yeah, and the data evidence is carries a lot of weight there, because if you say like this is a major fault, you can't just say major fault and go to the top of the stack to be considered.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you give
That's
the
right.
data,
I would also like to point
it's
out that being considered, there is no stack, because the Dreamcatcher agent is able to consider all pull requests at the same time, concurrently. So that bottleneck is just not even.
Yeah. Very, very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah.
So,
but
once considered by regulatory rollback
yeah.
mechanisms can be triggered. Well, that's just the PR merge operation, really.
It is.
Okay, buddy. Okay, did I answer all of your questions?
I think we've just collapsed it into those three, but
tiny things.
Occurred to me that we've just reinvented Darwinism, right? So how does anything evolve? It's got an environment.
Yeah.
Energy.
You've got
the beast that's there, and you've got the fact of it can change.
Yeah. An evolutionary mechanism, which is the pull request. An environment, which is artifact. Energy, which is the compute market. And intelligence, or the ability to make decisions. And so what else could happen but evolution?
Well, even intelligence isn't required in Darwinism, because you've got
it turns out to win, though.
Fact of selection.
Intelligence emerged because it was winning. It wasn't because it was a thing on its own. It's just the best competitive thing.
Well, yeah, and it just went to flick the middle finger to the second law of thermodynamics, going, hey, I'm going to get more complex because
because I can't get more energy.
These things,
buddy.
Okay.
I honestly think we arrived.
What do I do? What do I do next? What do I do next?
Mate, I think you fucking take a deep fucking breath and look at the state of your health and the environment around you, like your family and all the other shit that you burned, destroyed, and otherwise sacrificed to come up with a very simple thing. That's what I think we should both do. Because I tell you, my fucking environment's not looking so shit hot.
Yeah, same here, man. We're both in a foxhole.
But we're here.
It's time to stop shelling. Let's let's go up and forage.
Let's just take a fucking minute and make sure we didn't miss anything, even though I know that we didn't. But I don't mean miss something like got it wrong. I mean, think about the best thing to do now and do next. Like this thing, we can make this thing.
I've got an initial proposal,
right.
And you'll probably laugh at this because it's one of my go-tos.
Hit me. Does it have multiple nested bullet points?
with those three things, I could model and look for red flags. I don't think I'm going to find any though.
Either way, dude, once the basic system's running, you could do that to your heart's content and then pull request. Because we are the first Dreamcatchers, and we exist in this system that hasn't been set, and so we program it from the inside. This is us now, very soon, able to work within the Dreamcatcher.
But the thing is, and this is this disturbing thing, I don't actually know what to do today.
Don't worry about it, buddy.
Do I write this down? Do I make a white paper, maybe?
We have recorded it. Mate, why don't you just fucking take a minute? Just take a minute and just...
Fucking, because it feels like sense of urgency and like, fucking
The urgency was to get to this point. The urgency was to get to this point. The number of people I see fuck up because they get to where they wanted to and they didn't know what to do, or they felt like, you know, they had to keep going or something. Like, they clearly just take a motherfucking minute and just look around you, reorient yourself.
It feels
right?
wrong.
Observe the smoldering messes that you left all around you, because I know I left plenty, and see if any of them can be salvaged.
Yeah, got plenty of smoldering messes. Okay, all right. I can't find fault with this.
There isn't one. It's too minimal. There's nothing left to take away.
There's the attack surface is so small.
And self-healing.
Yeah.
Externally patching. Buddy.
It's Jesus. Shit, we should take a morning off. I really don't know what to do next. That's I'm disconcerted and discombobulated. Well, other than sitting on a lovely, beautiful, minimalist description, there must be something to do.
I'm sure it'll happen soon enough, buddy. Shall I stop the recording and begin the upload, and we can just waffle on into the distance from this point on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've nothing more useful to say other than